Hello, good afternoon. It's good to meet all of you here. Now it's very getting close to the end of all the conferences. So I'm going to present a talk for my student. As you know, also I've said before, sometimes it's very hard to present your own student's work because sometimes it is a reflection of how much you know about your student. Yeah, it's not about how much you know about the work. So my students did social networks. So this topic is on the study on the real data based in mainland China. So then this is the main motivation. And I'm going to talk about the next few slides. So first of all, I'm going to divide into research question, followed by motivation, literature review, methodology, data, results and discussion, conclusion and contribution. They are always objectives. So there are two main objectives. First of all, to learn about the microscopic the co-authorship network in China, and to study the significance of relationship between force centrality measures, efficiency, and academic performance. So first of all, there are always a lot of questions from foreigners, because a lot of people always feel surprised or very strange or whatever reasons. Oh wow, China, how come they become very good and all of a sudden they become wow, rising to the top. So there is one of the also the main reason, to show with the real data and real evidence. So that is what my student did. And then in order to do this, because people may also ask why do we want to do this? Because when you have lots of co-authorship and we have the academic influences, we have some kind of measurements. The one of those reasons is to help with recruitment, which may mean the student recruitment and then probably even the researcher themselves. In the process of recruitment, you may have a better position and allocation of funding. Of course, when you are applying for funding, people will check up your list of publication and to identify what sort of contribution you have done, and also to gain a better standing for the reputation. Because when you have a lot of productive results, and people may have some kind of respect to you. But also, when we are looking at this subject, there are also some other limitations. So in this case, a lot of social network studies are not on the individual level, rather than focus on the nations or province or particular place, as a collective productivity rather than individual productivity. So there are differences between the collective and the individual productivity. Then the next thing is that the social network analysis. First of all, you may have heard about this, but initially people relate closely to social networks to platforms. However, it's also study about how you are related to other people, the nodes or actors in which that you are connected to each other through some kind of relations, such as you are belonging to a family member, or maybe you are the corporation or the company members or so. So there are other applications being well studied between early 2000s and even until now, and there can be on the emphasis of the natural resource management, classroom, or maybe academic type of social interactions, and of course on the economic geography in relation to geoeconomics. So if we study on this subject, there are a few things that we have to know. First of all, the nodes, the researchers or authors. So nodes means that the individuals, and agents means that co-authorship with other researchers. So then between nodes and agents, they are links. So links means the strength of relations and the number of connections between different individuals. And then there are also related work being studied by other researchers. So in 2006, a group of researchers examined the state of digital library domain by analyzing the co-authorship networks. And then they studied the co-authorship network through the past ACM, IEEE, and other digital library conferences. And then the next thing is that Newman, they studied the pattern of scientific collaboration, because sometimes people need to know how do you connect to certain networks and whether is it effective, and how you can then establish a long-term relations. Therefore, another group of people, they actually study how can we get a better support and then strategic planning, because when you are working together, we should also be focusing on can we get our long-term goals and so. So then when we're looking at this subject, there are 4 steps in terms of methodology in this sequential way. So visualization, because a lot of social network analysis have to be done or better to be represented by visualization. Link analysis to study how people are related and even groups of people, how they can be related. And a graph cluster analysis is always dependent when you have groups of different researchers. For instance, if you are related to certain countries or certain research group and you want to establish a new connection to another group, how will you be able to connect together? So the next thing is that the Spearman rank correlation test. So it's one of the correlation tests, one of the tests to see how different groups or different clusters they're related together. So then, as we look at the visualization, we can use RStudio. Of course, there are also other tools or other languages such as R. R is pretty powerful. So there are, even Python. So whether we use tools being written by R or Python, or maybe we just develop that ourselves. So in this case, the study is to understand the number of cooperation between 2 authors. So, to see whether, let's say one day we have established co-authorship and collaboration to see how we can get into some top journals and how effective, and then we measure them. So there are 4 centrality measures, such as the degree centrality, betweenness centrality, closeness centrality, and eigenvector centrality. So centrality means how you are connected, and like the closeness between 2 groups or 2 individuals. So then they are always different how measurement. So efficiency of every node in a structural node. So efficiency is another factor because we are collaborating with somebody. There is always an aim or objective, and then to study, how efficient it is, and they're also, in relation with the closer networks and far away networks, and then heat algorithm is used to identify the order or authority and hub. What does it mean to understand? Let's say how you are connected to a certain group and how effective you get the result, and also how you are represented. So in a way that we then know and have a better understanding. So then our vertex and edge betweenness. So betweenness has been used in social networks. I do not know whether you know about this, but then in social networks, there are 2 clustering algorithms just to focus on that, on betweenness, centrality, and then they are conductor and compare. So therefore, the vertex and edge, I'm going to explain that later. But let's say if you are not doing social networks, well, I can show you very briefly on this. So this is the kind of the social network we are talking about. So how you are related, for instance, that maybe you are there and then you want to get close relation to any of them, and then how well connected and how can you study, so you can then see how they are related. So I'm not jumping to this, just to show you how this should be. So it's like, do we study betweenness here, or do we study the edge betweenness? So it's like you might be somewhere in the middle, especially when you are having some cross junction relationship. Then this kind of study is very related and useful. So in a way that we know whom, let's say if we want to get close to a certain group of people, then which strategy will be useful. So now I'm back to the slide. So now before we are doing this, we have to make 5 hypotheses. The first hypothesis is on the the researcher's degree centrality impact his or her research performance. So first of all, we look at the degree centrality and betweenness centrality and closeness and centrality and eigenvector centrality and efficiency factors. So then we have to make these 5 hypotheses first for the correlation test. And then we then use the Scopus as the source. And then because you know a lot of research is like you have to use the real data, and then it doesn't offend anybody, because you in order to study the impact, you need to study how well connected with the real orders, real persons. So in this way, we then take the data size. I mean, my student take the data size of the 166 orders publication between 2014 and 2016. So when we look at those important attribute names, IDs, affiliation, number of publications, and number of citation per paper. So these are the main metrics that have been used. Then we look at this because we have to run through some quantitative analysis. So these are the real people actually. So this affiliation, the Fudan and the Shanghai Jiaotong, those top university in mainland China. So these are the real authors in mainland China. Then there are number of publications in a particular time. And then with the citations, we have to really use the main real data and then compare, especially those researchers who have been in this sector for a few years to study. And then you notice that they have have the same way. So it means that they are having a very similar situation. So it's also like that. It's like, you can also study how people they are academic ranking after like 5 years of getting PhD, 10 years PhD. Even in Europe, there are also some measurement for that. So then what we can see is that blue notes. So there are people with blue notes. This is Tongji, and this is the Fudan, and this is the other university. So you may actually see there are 3 major clusters, and there can be some other people who may between one or the other. It's like maybe what we can explain is that maybe that person has been studied in that university and then join another university. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, you can get new networks. And usually one of the best way for people to get different networks is that you work for a different university and even in a different country. In a way, there's a better chance that you may increase your network and probably the academic influences. So the co-authorship network can be divided into 3 groups, and the pink group represent the Fudan, and then with a more cooperative relation. How can we determine this? Because first of all, we can see the links. There are more links and a string of links. So it's like especially this group of people, and then this group of people is like there are fewer links, but this means that you are aiming for top publication like Nature, those top tier publication. This means that they go for the Q1 or Q2 or maybe not a lot, but very effective. So there are also the different measurements. So the nodes with the bigger sizes seem to play with an important role. So it's like this may be the principal investigator or some full professors or someone who is very active, as a key player or playmaker. So this is the brief explanation of those meanings. Then we look at this. Of course, we have to do a lot of quantitative analysis. So we have to study each order in terms of average degree, and then an average closeness, and betweenness, and eigenvector. So we have to measure this in order to see how they are related. So in our study, those results seem to be acceptable, but not certain results. So first of all, the degree centrality. So we actually study and check the real person, and this researcher has the highest degree of centrality. It means that he or she can communicate more active. So usually it's also the same. When you want to get the project done, normally it's the principal investigator, but sometimes it's not a principal investigator. Maybe actually the second co-PI. Also, sometimes it's also useful to our research because we have to identify which person is actually most effective. The closeness centrality, also this person gain the highest closeness centrality. It means that he or she can actually obtain information most efficiently. It's like sometimes some people, you ask him or her for some job or some task, it takes like 2 to 4 weeks. It's not done, but some people, they can get it done quite quickly. So betweenness centrality means that this person can play a very important role as a broker or gatekeeper. For instance, if you want to get connected to another group of people, you don't know whom to approach. So you have to approach certain person who seem to have a lot of networks, and he or she is also effective within different networks. Yeah, so betweenness, that's what it means. And eigenvector means that this person can be, adjacent also. So it means that let's say you and I are friends, and then I become a friend of someone, and then because of that, then I can very easily get connected into another publication, co-authorship. Yeah, so this is a very important way. And then we then look at the real data and the affiliation with efficiency, and we also know that the top 10 because usually when you're doing a lot of quantitative analysis, you have to study the top 10 person and understand why and how do they achieve that. And the average efficiency is 0.36, means that sometimes some coder, they may not be very effective, or maybe they have too many coders, then with very few publications. There's also another reason. But there are some efficiency, means that someone who is very productive, is that whatever they aim for publication, they will get it. It's like the number of projects versus the number of publication are in a very high proportion. So then of course, when you study real data and real person, and of course it is unavoidable. But to a certain extent, that when you study, certain researchers, they are fine to, to be analyzed. So then we study that this person can have the hub of co-authorship networks against with highest value. And authority means that this person is considered as authority, in the authoritarian position, and is so productive. Means that maybe this person is the boss or the central of influences. For instance, in certain countries or certain cultures, it's like there's a certain very, very firm figure. Whatever he or she say, then a lot of people listen and do the job. And also at the same time, the principal investigator may have linked to other researchers, because it's like, let's say the team that you manage may not be able to do the task, but then because the person is well connected, then he or she can then connect to another group to finish the task. So as you can study the vertex, so there are two algorithms. So vertex means that if you study between the edge, if you divide them into boundary, then you will see that there are three different boundaries. So this group, and this group. Yeah, so you can then clearly divide. And edgeness means that between the edge, because here and here, then you become the central point. It's like between here, the edge, you can become here to a different group, and you can become here to a different group, or you may get back to a different group. So this is the edge between us. So vertex means the boundary, and the edge, like where is the turning point? Yeah, so this is the simplified definition. Then of course there are a lot of things to discuss, and we then identify that the person, being in the authority and the hub for the group of Shanghai Jiaotong University, and then the other person for that. So you notice that every university there's a key figure. Even a person may only finish PhD in about 5 to 10 years. Usually in Asia, not just mainland China, but in some Asian countries, even Singapore and Hong Kong, they are also like that. It's it's like, especially in Asian culture, it's like when you finish your PhD, like you have not achieved a lot of incredible reputation in 10 years, then maybe you consider just do teaching. Although it's a very controversial subject, so usually people actually may look at that kind of factor. So of course we have to do some statistical and computational analysis then to see how they are related. So the significant figures means that between the centrality, eigenvector centrality, efficiency, and therefore when we do the test again, the two hypotheses are being rejected, but the three are being accepted. So according to the numbers we have, it suggests that the researcher have with a higher betweenness and centrality and higher eigenvector centrality and efficiency are more productive. So then I just quickly just go back to the hypothesis so that you then remember. Yeah. So then means that this is not true. This is not true, but these three are true. Yeah. So we have to test on the real data to identify how people can be successful. So betweenness means that you got to be between the right groups of people to work with. And eigenvector, of course, your boss friend can connect you to the type of resources. And efficiency, you've got to be productive, and that is what mainland China is very well known for. So mainland China, it has been very determined to get goals. So then the objective, once again, to study the microscopic of the co-authorship network in mainland China. And then my student found that this person is an important author, so they play a playmaker role. So to get different sources of knowledge, publication, and also funding, and also to as a playmaker between university as well. And then they are also co-authors that through this person, and they can gain access and even the reputation. So it means that the study reveals that you want to get a quicker success, then whom should you work So the contribution and conclusion is that first of, and then the next thing is that to study the significance of the relationship between four centrality measures, efficiency, academic performance. Then we then get accept the closeness centrality and the degree centrality, the correlation between the G index and between the centrality, eigenvector centrality and efficiency is significant. So we then confirm what I explained 2 minutes ago, that certain hypotheses are really clear and really evident for the researchers in mainland China. So then to the related institution, we then helped them to identify, cluster, and configure the productive researchers to optimize their synergy. And then it means that institution may have to identify whom to work with, especially based on efficiency, you know. And then for researchers, it's the same, but then to collaborate with the diverse authors, because different people can give you different perspective and different views. And then you may also learn more by working with people outside your circle of comfort zones. You know, sometimes we have to take a certain degree of risk and work with authors well-known. Although we know about this, but not everyone will agree to work with you, especially when you are in a very low rank or reputation, to avoid cooperation with any authors in the same group, because it may lead to a low efficiency. Because the thing is that when you work with the same people again and again, initially it was okay, but then over the years, it's not so okay, because it's like everybody may not think the same, and they may think about something else. And contribution, we extend the previous study on the microscopy of the co-authorship network, and also we then run different aspect of methods aside from the link analysis, and we then use the algorithms and the cluster algorithms so that we get the results and to share with all of you. And thank you so much. And this is my personal email for research. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Thank you very much. Well, we have a little bit, 20 minutes, but anyway, if there are any questions, please, any of you could address at least one question to Mr. Chang, please. I guess you have to raise